Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome back to Marginal Gains. Today's episode is something of a response to viewer questions, in actual fact, and that question is, now that archers in Alpha 24 are so much stronger than in Alpha 23, how do we beat them? Well, why don't we find out? So, before we look into how to beat archers, let's have a quick aside. It's very easy to look at changes in the game and think that thing X is just totally OP. And that's an issue. However, in a game as complex as 0 AD, there's always going to be a way to counter an enemy. So it may mean that you need to be a bit more cunning, but it's never a lost cause. And that's something that I think is worth remembering and that people do tend to lose sight of. Anyway, let's have a look at why archers are just so damn good nowadays. And we're going to do that by comparing their stats between Alpha 23 and Alpha 24. Now, a range unit's effectiveness is measured in 4 ways. Their range, their pierce attack, and if they're slingers, a little bit of crush attack, their attack repetition, and their spread. So, what happened to make archers go from the worst to the best range infantry units? In terms of range, this actually decreased. It was previously 72 and it came down to 60 meters. So counterintuitively, it's actually a decrease of 17%. However, you've got to still bear in mind that it is a lot larger than any other range unit. Just, it's not quite by as much nowadays. Their pierce attack also increased from 6 to 6.7, which is undoubtedly a big boost. It's greater than 10% and it's not to be sniffed at. However, you've still got to bear in mind that it's only half the attack of a slinger and about 40% or so of that of a skirmisher. Now, their attack repetition remains constant, so it's not really this that made the difference. Although, as slingers' repetition has been made slower, it has become better in relation to them. And finally, spread reduced from 3 to 2. Aha! So here's the culprit. Archers have seen their accuracy increased by 1/3, and that is massive. So, adding all this up, we can see that archers still have the longest range of any range unit. They also have accuracy that's better than javeliniers, who are 4, and slingers that have 3. Now, this means that by the time any other range unit has got near enough to actually attack them, they've already taken plenty of hits, and that's normally enough to win any duel where the number of ranged soldiers in each army is similar. However, there is another thing that makes archers so good, and that's something that's only available to archer factions. And to clarify, those are the Persians, the Mauryaans, and the Kushites, and it's archery tradition, which is a tech. Now, currently it offers to increase their range by 10 meters, which is helpful, but more importantly, it reduces their training time. Now, this means that archers can be replenished 10% more quickly than your opponent's ranged troops. However, this is set to change in Alpha 25 when this training time reduction will be removed. And that segues nicely into telling you about our upcoming live stream where Alistair Findlay, Jim Newbie Rush Kogan, and I will be demoing Alpha 25 and also chatting with Stan, who is one of the main 0 AD developers. So put your questions for Stan in the comments on email or on Twitter, and we will get Stan to try and answer them on Friday. So with that out of the way, before we look at specifically what can be done about beating massed archers, let's have a quick look at their general weaknesses. Now, armor is a big one. Their hack and pierce are set at just 1, and this means they're basically naked. They also only have half the hit points of melee soldiers, so 50 rather than 100, and this is an important thing to bear in mind. Also, their attack, as we've established, isn't the strongest, and in fact it is the weakest of all ranged troops. That said, it's still stronger than any melee unit except swordsmen. So, to expose them, you're going to need to focus on accentuating any advantages with hit points and armor that you can. So, based on the above, you're up against some archers. What do you do? Well, let's have a think about what units and/or combinations of units offer a decent chance of success against them. First up, pikemen. Now, pikemen, not on their own that is, need to be supported by ranged troops. Now, they have incredible armor, but they have limited attack. So if you're able to use a wall of pikemen as a meat shield, then your ranged troops should be able to take out the archers as they are pretty weakly armored. Therefore, if you're up against archers, the first techs you should research are those that offer protection against ranged troops. Extra armor on already well-armored units means death for archers. Your second way to get at archers is to use siege towers. Now, these are pretty difficult for archers to hurt, so if you transport the maximum number of troops that you can in there, then you should have what it takes to knock down massed archers while taking limited hits. Thirdly, Almost all melee champions are going to have a huge advantage over archers. So let's get as many as you can in combination with pikemen if possible and head them out in front of your range units. This combination should wipe out archers at phenomenal speed, and in fact enough champions don't even require range troops to annihilate dozens of archers. Bolt shooters are another way, but these are not as effective as they used to be, as both catapults and bolt shooters' pierce armor has been reduced substantially. In the case of bolts, halved from 50 to 25. Nonetheless, the splash damage and incredible strength of this siege weapon makes it an excellent choice against archers, particularly in terms of static defense of key parts of the map. A few well-placed bolt shooters, a fortress, and a simple wooden palisade can be sufficient to stop archers in their tracks and make your opponent look for other openings. And finally, use rams as tanks if you can. Again, archers' pierce attack barely touches them, so load up some strong units like pikes, just for a change, or champions, and use those to deliver death directly to the archer's doorstep. If your opponent is wise to this tactic, you can actually even fake it by sending empty rams and watch him back his archers off in anticipation of a melee assault that's actually never going to arrive. So keep your poker face on if you want to try this one. And that is that. So from what we've established, it's pretty clear that archers' increased accuracy and slight increase in pierce damage is what's doing the business for them. So it's up to people playing against archers to use their weaknesses, which they still have plenty of, against them. And now we've looked at a few of the ways to do that. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, obrigado e adeus, and I'll see you on Friday at the live stream.